A thick layer of coal dust covers the furnace, coloring it. Tiles on the cube are like a smooth draw. The filament slide. The speaker comes.
Good morning. Doctor, please repeat. Is this the off? Good. Please repeat. No, that's not it.
What does she mean? That's not it. What's the password then?
No.
A hint system is not.
Still no. I am contractually.
I'm afraid we are not doing that.
Now, can you please repeat the receive?
Don't worry. Passwords have.
Fortress accident. Is there a thank you?
Tiles on the cube. The filament slides out of. As before, this is directly above the central furnace in the cellar. The voice.
You broke down the back door, the wards, the door. It's all gone now. Dark psychic energy leeching onto my shop. I suppose it's all over now. I guess there's no escape. Okay, I'm willing to listen. We are set on the path.
But before we go on, did you encounter the malignant?
You did?
Then it has to be true. I've suspected that this woman-shaped energy must be connected to the curse ever since I first saw her. Did you see that she lives in...
Yes, I've heard that. It's enormous. She has barricaded herself behind some metal security curtain.
Some unnatural magic, I assume.
You should go find the entity and ask what happened to all the companies in the building.
If you're really interested in cracking this mystery, then we should go back to the furnace. Maybe...
Despite his cool, the lieutenant's interested in solving this mystery too. tracks are as they have ever been. A bit more worn, perhaps. Fortunately, the...
No wonder the cafeteria manager seemed frustrated when he was... Well, you did provide us.
Hello, dear. Thank you for doing that, dear. Morel still isn't feeling well. I convinced him to stay at Gary's to get some rest. I'm afraid the cold has really gotten to him. I'm sorry, dear. You've had to drudge through them so many times. Such is field work.
Her voice is shaky. What is going on here?
Morel will eventually, or we'll talk Gary into going back out, perhaps.
The lieutenant stares at his shoe, caked in mud. He doesn't say anything.
No, you don't have to do that. Enough of this fool's errand. Morel will...
Be real. Gary is not going to help with this.
That really is too much, sweetie. Thank you.
Fuck that cough. It's not happening. The insides of your lungs are lined with tobacco, a powerful antibacterial agent. Very strange. Why is she not letting you do this? It's like she's given up.
Different? How? I'm in doubt, sweetie. That's all. It's a strange feeling. I haven't really told. Do you ever wonder if some lovely story from your childhood is just that? A story? Or a dream? Seeing the Insulindian phasmid was just a story I used to tell people. I didn't really think about whether it was real. Morel's so proud of it. He always tells everyone. No, sweetie. There's more to it than that. Morel was so eager to believe my story was evidence of the fact that I'm some queen of the cryptozoologists. That, and for years his belief made me believe too. But now, we're both getting old and he's still working himself sick out in those reeds looking for it.
The lieutenant opens his notebook, but doesn't write anything.
A true believer. Sometimes either way, I should go. Poor Morel is running a fever and I need to get him home to Jamrock before we overstay our welcome with Gary. Oh no, thank you, but I can...
Really?
Oh, sweetie. Please don't get stuck on a dream. Okay? It's 1113 Tabernacle Road, Jamrock, but... You're welcome, sweetie. I'm glad it helped you, even though it turned out to be a
dream. A lie. A fool's hope. Say her lips moving in silence. Like that, she drives off. The gas engine putters quietly as she gets to the doors, then pushes them open. outside the cold.
We should go too.
Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio.
This is Precinct 57. How may I assist you? No, and I doubt they'll get back to me before tomorrow morning. Anything else? Hold on, officer. I've got Central Jamrock Public Library on the line, and I've already introduced you to their librarian.
Yes, this is Central Jamrock Public Library here. How can I help you, officer? Billy Majon, you said. Give me a moment, I'll have to check our database.
On Moreau Drive in Central Jamrock, in a darkened hall lit by orange desk lamps far away from the noise outside, a middle-aged man taps commands into an old radio computer. A printout.
Yes, hello, are you still there? I found Billy Majon's home address, is that alright? No phone number, unfortunately.
They're too poor to have a phone line.
Here we go, sir. Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33B, apartment number 20. It's in Martinez, I believe. Cape Side Apartments, it says.
That's where the smoker on the balcony lives, isn't it?
It says here that they returned their last book just a few days ago. But Marie? Marie? Do you remember a reader named Billy Majon? They returned a Tybalt book the other day.
Maurice, what? A woman yells. Then, yes, okay, if it was the police.
Yes, it was my colleague Marie. She said that it was Billy's husband who returned the book. He also asked for this new sci-fi release, Lowe's Radio...
Good. You have a name now.
Marie knows Billy. She's been working here longer than me. Sometimes her husband returns some books for her. Sorry, no. Marie only knows him by sight. Marie! She said it was an older man, and that she's pretty sure he'd had... 1 second. Sorry, Marie wasn't really paying any attention to that. Happy we could help. Goodbye, officer.
Anything else you need from me? 57, over.
In the cabin, you see a set of
give me a moment. It's about Victor, isn't it? It's always about Victor with her. You'll find the Maisons in apartment 20 upstairs. It's one of those doors on the balcony.
Hello again, officers. Have you come to admire my mural?
This door is made of metal and appears to be a weathered brown door. The number reads, "Something smells good." The lieutenant motions to you to go ahead, and this is the door. You already know it's the right door. This is going to be so hard.
You're right. Let's talk this through.
You hear some light footsteps.
We have our first preliminary identification. In all likelihood, the deceased is... Now, delivering a death notification is never an easy task. There's a reason why it's often called the most stressful part of our job. This is why it's usually done in pairs. You got this. I'll be monitoring reactions. Ready to... Dead? Just don't say that you know how they feel. You don't. Yes, it's hard. But there is no easy way to handle this information. It just has to happen, as soon as possible.
The lieutenant motions towards the door. And someone turns down the radio. He gives you a short, encouraging, tidying up.
It's you from the bookstand. Did you come to bring my cockatoo back? I don't think I introduced myself properly. I'm Billy. Would you like something to drink?
The lieutenant has taken off his foggy glasses and is busy cleaning them in his handkerchief for now. You're on your own here.
Is this about Victor, my husband? Is he in some kind of trouble again? I can come... No, this is something much worse.
It's like ripping off a bandage. The least painful way is to do it straight away, without stalling. You've done this before. Just keep your focus.
What did you say?
A great and terrible spike. The blood freezes in her veins.
Oh. Oh. But he was just...
But he was just here, alive.
We understand this comes as a huge shock. I want you to know that me and my partner are here for you if you have any questions. Take your time, ma'am.
What happened to him? Was he drunk? I see. And you just... How long had he been there?
If you say 2 days maybe, it will be etched in her mind forever. She blinks, eyes welling up with...
Here.
No, no. I just need to tell my girls.
It burns like acid.
God. Should I call them?
No. A day.
Good. That's probably the right thing.
She can't take much more. Her stomach is churning. Soon she will...
Just tell me, what do I need to do next?
We've taken him to the city morgue. The local coroner will be contacting you shortly to arrange the funeral. Here's his number in case you want to...
A very good call.
Is there anything else that the RCM could do for you?
No, I'll call you if something comes up. I'm still... Thank you. Thank you for telling me.
These are her last reserves of strength. Her muscles will...
We should step outside and talk. You did well. I'll call the station when we're finished with the day and let them know the name of the deceased. They'll manage. That's it. We should get back to our case now that our duty here is done. Let's go.
The spread pattern of these bullet holes makes your chest ache, your breath grow. More old bullet holes, half a century at least, from the revolution. You peer into the faded marks in the stone. They peer back like your chest feels tight looking at them. It's closing in, caving in, ever.
You okay there? You were looking pale there for a second. What are you looking at? Bullet holes generally look the same, so probably. But you're right. More old bullet holes from the revolution. Plenty.
The streets ran red with blood. Dust swirled above the ruins. The pressure change from artillery fire ripped. The door is closed again. You hear someone inside, walking from room to room.
Does Kuno care?
What's going on? Is an ungovernable youth on your crime scene?
Get your snout out of Kuno's ass. You should give up.
You okay?
That went wrong.
Kuno doesn't fuck.
The cover of this pocket-sized volume features a swirl of orange, yellow, and green. The title, A Brief Look at What an interesting color palette. It's vibrant, yet somehow leaves you ever... On the inside jacket flap, you find a brief summary. What is inframaterialism? A highly theoretical branch of Mazovian communism? A collection of mystical... This brief look, TM, introduces readers to one of this century's most fascinating and misunderstood theories in a concise, jargon-free manner. You turn to the table of contents. The guide itself is divided into several sections with seemingly esoteric titles like Effects of Plasm on Root Vegetable, known to his numerous admirers as the evangelist of the revolution, and to his even more numerous enemies as the apocalyptic Shrike. Ingus Nielsen remains one of the most controversial. During his unparalleled life, he helped guide a revolution in one country and found a new state in another. Along the way, he is your brother, a fellow doom prophet. And yet, his most fascinating contribution to history may be the most overlooked. His theory of ideological plasm, from which his followers and successors developed the school of communism known as inframaterialism. If you're like most people, you probably believe that your thoughts reside in your brain. That's not right at all. Thoughts don't exist in the brain. They float through the air. Your brain is but a fish, swimming through them. Wrong, at least according to Mazov's devoted comrade and leading theoretician. Nielsen was responsible for developing much of the intellectual foundation of communism. During his final years in exile, he produced, among other things, an early guide to home brewing, instructions for raising revolutionary children, plans for a universal pictographic language, and a detailed materialist critique of Dolores Day's chess strategy. true man of ideas, equal to any of the great DeLorean polymaths. But one subject he returned to time and time again was the fundamental relationship between thoughts and matter. We may yet discover, he wrote in his notebooks, that under certain exceptional circumstances, the proletariat's embrace of historical materialism may be so fervent that their beliefs take form in the world of matter as a kind of revolutionary plasm. Certainly, in essence, Nielsen is arguing that thoughts don't just reside inside the brain, they radiate outward from it. According to this idea, the brain is an ideological transponder, constantly emitting waves of highly Woe is right. What's more, Nielsen speculated that this plasm, when it becomes powerful enough, might begin to influence the material reality surrounding it. Hence the name. Unfortunately, Nielsen passed away before he was able to develop these initial ideas into a full-fledged theory. That work was left to subsequent generations of communists. Building on Nielsen's basic insight, these theorists reached a startling conclusion that a sufficiently revolutionary state might begin to exhibit certain extra-physical effects based on the amount of plasm generated by its citizens. Correct, though certain particulars of the theory are commonly attributed to Nielsen himself. The evidentiary basis of those attributions has always been a point of contention between inframaterialists. The actual theory is highly technical, but for the purposes of this brief look, no, there's something here. You can feel it. Inframaterialists divide the extra-physical effects of the revolutionary state by the level of at the lowest, or first level. Revolutionary plasm is believed to stimulate or invigorate matter without altering its essential properties. To take one example, during the revolutionary period, many communard farmers in Grad report the difference in these yields was simply too great to be accounted for by mere climate or soil conditions. The only reasonable explanation, inframaterialists argue, is the high level of revolution. Even today, in parts of the SRV, there are collective farms whose root vegetable yields exceed those thought possible by It's also been postulated that plasm may account for the remarkably full and manly facial hair observed on some communist males. Your hand feels clammy against your bare chin. You wipe it along the back of the book and keep reading. Of course, inframaterialists argue that revolutionary plasm may stimulate human physiology in other ways as well. Oh yeah, we're talking about white-hot communist sex, baby. That's correct. Reports from the revolutionary period claim that the most radically devoted communards were able to engage in vigorous intercourse for up to 8 hours. 8 hours? There's no way. Your equipment would be mashed. No wonder the communards couldn't shoot straight. They were too shagged out. Hyperproductive vegetables and ultra-horny communards are fine, but this theory hasn't quite gotten strange enough for you. And on that note, you feel like you've gotten the general idea of inframaterialism, enough to carry on a basic conversation at least. But, of course you want to go deeper. The book fits quite snugly into your palm. It would also fit comfortably. You flip forward a few pages until you come upon a chapter titled Mental Projection and Transfer. When a community has achieved a sufficiently high degree of revolutionary fervor, inframaterialists believe that second-level effects may be observed. At this second level, certain hyper-revolutionary individuals may even develop the ability to extend their thoughts into material space and According to inframaterialist theory, yes. Under suitably revolutionary, of course, one doesn't need to be a communist to be attuned to the thoughts of your brothers and sisters. It's become something of a folk legend that during their final meeting, Nielsen and Mazov didn't speak a single word, preferring to sit in silence with their chamomile tea, reading one another's thoughts. One of the minor tragedies of the late revolutionary period is that few reliable accounts survive. Much of what we know of the communards' activities during this period come from memoirs and second-hand accounts, some only written down decades after the fact, and of dubious authenticity.
I suppose we do work quite well together.
Your words hang in the air as the lieutenant scribbles something in his notebook. At some point, he realizes. The lieutenant looks at you evenly for a moment, then returns to his notebook without...
Did I? My bad, detective. Won't happen again.
As we were saying, it's generally believed that these effects are only exhibited by certain hyper-revolutionary individuals, generally less than 0.01% of the... Because plasm has never been directly observed, the exact mechanism behind these... Why are you getting hung up on mechanisms? Open your mind's aperture just a little wider. You're so close to... Psst. You know what else lets you feel like you can read minds? Spooky old pyrrolidon. Most inframaterialists would argue that the inability of skeptics to detect plasm is simply evidence of their own insufficient revolution. This should be more than enough for a stimulating discussion. That said, if you're still, you must. Everyone knows books save their best parts for the end. You breeze through the next several sections until you arrive at the final chapter. When a society's revolutionary fervor reaches the third and highest level, inframaterialist theoreticians have postulated that the laws of physics cease to be laws. More like suggestions, according to some of the SRV's leading inframaterialists. Of course, it's impossible to say what exactly happens under these conditions. No known society, some inframaterialists have even argued that it might require more plasm than humanity alone may be capable of producing. In the SRV, there have been attempts to organize certain species of aquatic mammals, as well as a few of the higher corvids. But, as of this writing, only human beings have demonstrated the intellectual capacity for revolution. There are numerous stories from Samara involving bandits or fascist mercenaries being levitated by farmers from the form of these stories also recalls several well-known Samoan folk tales. In particular, among known attempts to channel third-level capabilities, the most well-documented is the curious case of Coalition warship. It concerns an interesting series of events that took place during the invasion of Revachol. As Coalition forces made landfall, a cadre of Nielsen's most fervent acolytes attempted to compress a Coalition aerostatic. According to Communard law, these acolytes positioned themselves at the top of a redoubt just over the bay of Revachol. From that vantage, they proceeded to visualize pinching Coalition warship debutante between their fingers, a gesture believed to assist in... The Communards were notoriously under-equipped against the much better-funded Coalition. In any event, it's doubtful even ceramic arm. The acolytes, along with the redoubt, were vaporized in an artillery strike before the process could be completed. Picture the lot of them, all standing with their fingers in the air 1 minute, the next reduced to a bloody mist. It's been said, though, that in the weeks following the battle, the captain of the debutante noted an increase in the incidence of crewmen striking their heads on unexpectedly low bulkheads. Of course, colourful anecdotes only scratch the surface of what inframaterialists believe may be possible in a truly... Some have theorized that such a society would be fundamentally unrecognizable, lacking many of the institutions we typically take for granted. Did that book just say there's no place for you in this future? Others have argued that people living under third-level conditions will be immune to such infirmities as hunger, disease. In some of his later writings, Nielsen himself speculated about the potential for an extra-physical architecture that disregards the laws of bourgeois physics and instead relies on the revolutionary faith of the people for structural integrity. Nielsen called it the highest expression of communist principles, a society whose on the following page you come across a few black and white reproductions from Nielsen's own notebooks. One sketch depicts a government ministry shaped, another depicts a leaning tower wrapped in a dramatic helix. Something about that tower looks awfully familiar. Could it be that's what the students were trying to recreate with the matchboxes? In the corner of one of the reproduced notebook pages, you can make out a state that has lost the faith of its people, has forfeited the right to exist. There is no more. You've reached the outer theoretical limits of communism. If you'd like to read further, may we recommend a brief look at Occidental architecture? Suzeranity box is heavy and slightly awkward in your hands. You give it a light shake and feel the pieces shift. The Suzeranity box is heavy and slightly awkward. What? Does the lieutenant hate fun? Is he the fun police? The lieutenant gives you a sour look. He may or may not hate fun, but either way, he does not appreciate your attitude. Have you tried goading him?
In your dreams, maybe. I've thrashed my share of trash talkers before.
Ignore the mock umbrage. Now he wants to prove it to you. At this point, plain badgering may be your...
All right, detective. You win. How do we play this game?
You explain the basic setup procedures to the lieutenant, who seems to be a quick study. You each in the center is the crown of Revachon, radiating outward, apricots from Safre, archaeological treasures from Ilmarat. There's also a neat little log to keep track of your progress, in case you need to put the game away and return to it later. The lieutenant goes first. He draws a contract card and moves several of his workers to the Safre territory of the board.
All right, detective. Your turn.
You have a few options available to you. Will you try to fulfill contracts right away, or rearrange your workers to maximize... Remember what the rulebook said. You will want to choose a strategy early on and stay committed to it. What? It's the very beginning of the game. Your workers haven't even done any work yet. There's no concept of rest in suzerainty. Workers have to work. Meanwhile, the lieutenant spends 2 of his sugar and 1 of his apricot tokens to complete his
That's a market. It's worth 2 victory points. Don't worry, it was mostly just luck. You'll earn some points soon enough. Points are nothing. They don't exist. They're just an arbitrary convention that games use to reward or punish players for certain behaviors. Game designers, I imagine? There are some paranoid types who believe the moral intern keeps detailed score sheets for everyone in the Real Belt. Otherwise, no. There are no points, just your actions and the consequences of those. That's just the way it is. Now, I believe it's...
Glancing over the board, you see several possible strategies. Pressing more workers into service would increase your economic output and help you to survive a possible conflict with the lieutenant. Or what do you do? Using your powers of persuasion, you can, after several turns, your worker tokens greatly outnumber the lieutenants. A vast army of expendable labor is at your command.
Too bad investing in your worker. Take a look at the scoring tables in the back. You see in Table 8C that investing in territorial infrastructure multiplies your final victory point total by 1, which is to say not at all. Whereas erecting monuments in Revachol gives you a multiplier of 5. Yes, precisely.
Now it's the lieutenant's turn to respond. He moves aggressively onto the Safre territory. For several turns, you struggle to respond to the lieutenant's burgeoning apricot empire. Eventually, you relocate the majority. You draw a new contract card. According to the text, there's an aristocrat willing to trade a large supply of cocaine for a number of coins and access to a rare bonus. Amplified music worth 7 victory points. Oh yeah, baby. Cocaine and rock music go together like cocaine. You know, this isn't unlike the situation the historical Revacholian Suzeranía. Well, the Suzerain was looking for new markets for all the cocaine. By introducing cocaine into Safre under exclusive contract, the Suzeranía created an extremely valuable captive market for an extremely addictive product. If you could somehow get the lieutenant's workers addicted to your cocaine, you could not only make them less productive, you would also force the lieutenant to pay you. Yes, you can. You've reached a critical strategic juncture. How do you respond to the lieutenant's aggression? With each passing turn, you slowly bleed the lieutenant of coins as his own workers become less productive and more dependent on your magenta cocaine token. As a matter of historical fact, this is almost exactly what happened in Safre. To this day, fully half of the former Safre Empire remains dependent on it.
More or less.
Realizing victory is slipping away, the lieutenant launches a desperate gambit. Protectionism. By erecting, the end game is upon you. Do you escalate the trade war with the lieutenant in hopes of crushing him with your economic might? Or do you ignore his aggression and focus on building the mighty victory column structure in Revachol herself? Alternatively, you could throw the whole game away by trying to build a "the choice is yours." Building the ultimate structure requires diligent economic. Rather than build a glorious monument to Revachol's economic superiority.
A risky gambit, detective. Sorry it didn't pay off. Don't be a sore loser, detective. Now, let's tally up the score.
Computing the final scores is almost a game unto itself. You each spend an inordinate amount of... After double, then triple checking your maths. 15 victory points. The Suzer...
I've got 26 points. Don't be glum, detective. There's always next time. Figure... Now, let's clean up and...
You hold the open game box before you. withdrawal has not lessened since you were last here. If anything, it seems to have grown slightly.
Mr. Dubois, the word in Martinez is a certain police officer is once again happily reunited with his service weapon. Congratulations, my friend. I prefer my police officers old-fashioned like that, with a gun. You can do so many things with a gun. My. She's quite the looker, Harry. You can't imagine how pleased I am. Tell me, was it difficult to convince the pigs to give it up? I knew you could handle it. I know my special policeman. Anyway, I'm glad you're all right and...
Mister. I knew you'd be back to talk with old Leo here. Yes, I did. It's like Lady Larice said when she opened a bathhouse in the basement of my apartment building. They can only get so far before they're aching to get back. Sure, mister. Absolutely. I'm always willing to help out nice fellows such as yourself. Mr. Evrat doesn't really want me to talk to people about union guys. But who did you want to talk about? Mr. Edgar is Mr. Evrat's brother. He looks a bit younger, he does, but a very smart fellow. Very smart fellow indeed. He's away on some union... Huh? Sure, mister. What? He's a union man through and through. Good guy. He's very calm. Honestly, I don't know what he does for us, but it must be important because everybody likes him. Yes, they do.
Oil for the wheels. Much needed in stressful times like...
Whoa, he's really something. He doesn't talk much to me usually, but when he does, I don't really understand most of what he's saying. Actually, I don't think he would like me running my mouth about him like that. Once he said he's a dragon to this mob fellow who came picking a fight with some union men. I think he really believes Jean-Luc was a dragon because he ran right...
That's precisely what he is. Everard's dragon.
Oh, Titus is a longshoreman through and through. He was born on a boat, they say. His veins are probably filled with salt water, I tell you. Nice, friendly... I'd best not. I mean, I could, but I don't think Mr. Everard would like it very much. You bet. The night guard, he was a peculiar fellow. Headstrong and proud. We didn't really talk all that much. He died, sure.